Instead of locking them up, police say they're forced to let fugitives, known fugitives, walk free.
And it's a problem that happens all the time. Investigator Ryan Kath found one example you'll have to see to believe. Ryan?
Mark, he was a wanted man in Missouri, and we knew exactly where he worked and where he lived. But when we called police, they told us they had to look the other way.
You're watching Dennis Hall finish up a day's work at an Overland Park construction site in late December. The 52-year-old is a fugitive, wanted for a sex crime in Missouri. Even though he's flying under the radar in Kansas, he couldn't hide from our camera thanks to a tip from a concerned parent. For fear of retribution, we're concealing his identity.
That was a 16-year-old we're talking about. How would you feel if it was your 16-year-old?
We found this graphic police report accusing Hall of assaulting a teen girl. It says, quote, he has no regard for others and has been the suspect of other sexual assaults.
In some cases, it's just a matter of going next door neighbors.
An archived NBC Action news story shows Blue Springs police passing out flyers and searching for Hall. He was eventually picked up on a traffic stop and charged in Jackson County with furnishing porn to a minor, indecent exposure, and assault. But then Hall posted bond and disappeared. 7 years later, we found him at this Johnson County construction job and followed him to this extended stay motel in Lenexa. But when we reported the details to law enforcement, we got the same surprising response as our tipster.
How shocked were you that they couldn't do anything?
Very. I mean, that's 15, 20 miles away.
Turns out Hall was safe on the other side of the state line because his warrant was non-extraditable, meaning authorities could not pay the cost of transferring him from out of state. We showed our undercover video to the Johnson County Sheriff's Department.
They know if they go into that state and they get stopped, they're going to jail for their warrants.
And learned a lot of fugitives know where they can and can't be picked up.
These are actually the hard copies of all the warrants.
Johnson County has about 9,000 active warrants, a small percentage of the 1.8 million tracked nationwide in the FBI database. The vast majority of non-extraditable warrants are misdemeanors for things like unpaid parking tickets or writing a bad check.
Extradition is fairly expensive.
But Erickson said there are examples like the time he pulled someone over in Mission with a rape charge on the East Coast. It was a non-extraditable warrant, preventing the person from being arrested in Kansas.
On a charge like that, you really think about, what did this person do, and why are they walking around? Why are they free and not facing those charges?
Since we could pinpoint Hall's exact location, the Jackson County prosecutor filed a governor's warrant, an agreement between states that would allow authorities in Kansas to pick him up and ship him immediately back to Missouri. But the process is a lengthy bureaucratic paper trail. From Jackson County, it traveled to Jefferson City for signatures from the Attorney General's office and the governor. From there, it was mailed to Topeka for more signatures. And then finally it landed with the Johnson County Sheriff's Fugitive Squad.
Move it up.
Nearly 2 months after we first spotted Dennis Hall, we were there when deputies closed in and put him in handcuffs.
Didn't really say much at all. He did acknowledge that he was aware of a couple warrants out of Missouri.
Hall tried to cover his face when he saw our camera.
Why you been running so long, Dennis?
And he didn't answer questions either.
We're breathing a little bit easier than we were before.
To the pastor of the neighboring church and daycare, there was relief of seeing Hall disappear in the back of a squad car. We told him he'd been working just across the parking lot for weeks.
Were kids in danger in this case? I don't know. We would certainly hope that the law would not be allowing that to occur unnecessarily.
But with cash-strapped budgets, the cost of extradition means there are other cases like Dennis Hall, forcing police to continue letting fugitives walk free.
And get this, I called the Jackson County Detention Center about 30 minutes ago. Dennis Hall posted his $5,000 bond at about 9:30 tonight. So we'll see if he makes his next court date. That is scheduled for March 9th. The story came from a tip. If there's anything you'd like us to investigate, email me at kath@NBCActionNews.com. You can also comment on this story by sending me a message on Twitter or Facebook. And like we've done, Mark and Elizabeth, with previous investigations, we'll air some of the better comments in later newscasts.
Oh, my goodness.
That's really something.
Wow.
Now, the deputy mentioned the rape charge that was non-extraditable. How often does something like that happen?
Well, pretty much any law enforcement agency around the country will extradite when it's a violent felony like that. But at some point, they have to pick and choose because of the costs. And tomorrow morning on NBC Action News Today, we'll show you some of the costs that our local sheriff's departments face with extradition.
You can imagine when you follow the paper trail between the two states.
That could be costly. It's certainly time-consuming.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.